All right, hey, welcome back to another episode of the Good Advice Podcast. You're tuning into the best resource to learn how to grow and scale your business. And I'm your host, Blake Benz. I've been doing this podcast for a while now, I guess. And you've tuned into the place where we cut through all the fluff and we talk about what simply works in business. It's what we're all looking for, right? We're not looking for maybe the shortcut or hack, because if you are, I'll go ahead and tell you it doesn't exist. But we are looking for the things that are proven to make sense, and we're going to be talking about that today on the show. Talking today about a little bit of an experience I had with a local electrician and what it has taught me about value. We're going to be talking about it on the show today. I don't know if you can see the video, but holding up a little burnt wire here. The wire that almost burnt my house down, apparently. We're going to be talking about this on the show. Stay tuned, though. We got a quick word from one of the amazing businesses that are so kind to financially support the podcast. Got an amazing ad we're going to share with you here in a second. One of the amazing businesses in our local community. Check this out. We'll be right back soon. See you soon. There's one single piece of advice that I give to business owners who are ready to scale their business drastically. And that's knowing exactly what you need to hand off so that you can continue focusing on what you're an expert in. It amazes me when I talk to business owners who are doing their own bookkeeping and tax prep, and worse, that they're going through all of this paperwork at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, even midnight, slaving away trying to make sense of all of the numbers for their business. Business owners who are making it happen have already figured out that you can't do it all yourself. That's why I recommend Steve Lay with Equity Business Solutions. Not only is he an expert in bookkeeping and tax prep, but what I love about Steve is that he'll sit down with you and help you make sense of the value of your business beyond just reading a spreadsheet. You'll be able to make better decisions, and more importantly, you're going to save yourself the crucial time you would have spent going through QuickBooks or an Excel spreadsheet or whatever it is that keeps us up late at night. So save yourself some time and some money by giving Steve Lay a call at Equity Business Solutions, and he'll show you the value beyond your numbers. Go to equitybusinesssolutionsllc.com to find out more. So I'm fighting off a little bit of a cold, and bear with me here as we get into it today. If I have to step away for a second. But talking about the wire, the burnt wire that almost burnt my house down, apparently, I'm just a casual dude living in his house, but I had an electrician who told me, hey, this could have caught your house on fire. And, we're going to talk about it today. So a little bit of a flashback, or maybe flashback makes it seem way too long. This was like 4 days ago. So flashback to 4 days ago. Dishwasher trips the breaker, and I go out, flip it back, and start the dishwasher again, and I notice again it trips the breaker. So after doing this a couple of times, I know not very much about how houses work, but I know enough to know, okay, if it's constantly tripping it, there's something wrong here. So call an electrician. I go to Google. Funny enough, from an SEO standpoint, I'm one of the biggest proponents for having your Google profile up to date, for having your reviews on there. Well, so I click the link on the top result, a massive local electrical company, tons of 5-star reviews, and I give them a phone call and I say, hey, I need an electrician out here. Dishwasher's broken. It's tripping the breaker. Something's going on here. Can somebody come out? Yep, we'll have somebody out there. The next day, or maybe a couple days later, I think it was the next day, somebody comes out. Now, mind you, this person, they were about an hour later than they were supposed to be, if I recall correctly, which is fine. Which, by the way, not to get on my soapbox, can we talk about when people arrival times? Like, can we talk about the America's worst company, Comcast and Cox Cable and all these like major service companies that they give you like the whole day window? Like, we need you to be at your house from 8 to 5. It's like, we need you to be at your house from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. and you can't go anywhere and you can't do anything, is really how it feels, honestly. But this kind of stuff drives me crazy. But regardless, it's besides the point. So I get this thing that's like, hey, here's like the 2-hour window. And they were, I think, half an hour or an hour after that. No big deal. I'm kind of used to it. It's kind of sad that we're just used to this kind of customer service. Person comes, they look under the dishwasher and they go, yep, I see what the problem is. You got some wires that are corroded, yada, yada. I'm going to do some work, get back in my truck. I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, cool. So I'm thinking this person's like going out to their truck to get their tools and they're going to like fix this thing, right? That's what any normal person would assume, right? This is, however, not what happens. The person comes back and I'm working from home. And so like I'm in meetings. I had to like go jump on a call. The call lasted for like 45 minutes. I come out and this person has not started on the dishwasher. So I talked to my wife and I'm like, hey, what's going on? Like, why is this person still here? And she's like, well, hey, he has a few different options. He's done like a full review of the house and he has some things that he needs us to sign off on before he can fix the dishwasher, which I'm thinking, okay. So I talked to this guy and he has 4 options for me for fixing the dishwasher. And he talks about how the house is not under code anymore. It's like fallen out of code, that, the wire could have caused a fire, could have burned our house down. Surge protectors. We need surge protectors in our house, like all these things that we should have that we don't have. And shows me this proposal for $5,000. I am pretty amazed at this. I don't know a lot about electrical work or, any of this stuff, but I'm thinking like, this is a bit wild to me. And I'm looking at this proposal. I'm kind of flipping through it. And there is like a line item on like a 2-year maintenance plan, like just like a bunch of things that I'm like, man, I don't really want any of this. I kind of just want the dishwasher fixed. And around this time too, my wife, she's been delaying putting the kids down for their nap time. So she's a little annoyed too. And she's like, Blake, how come none of these have just the dishwasher price on it? Like what? Like what's just the fix the dishwasher price? That's all I care about, right? Long story short, we say goodbye to this electrician. It's been probably 2 hours now, maybe 3 hours. And which nice enough guy. Let me be clear. The guy was not like a slimy salesperson, very matter of fact, and was just like, yep, this is what it'll cost. Here's some bids, yada, yada. I think maybe I honestly don't remember. I think maybe the cheapest bid was maybe like around $1,000, maybe $800. I can't remember. But the 5,001 was top of mind for me. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And he was like, yeah, this is all the things your house needs. So I was like, okay, thank you. We're going to go with, get a second opinion. Leaves, new electrician comes out, and homeowner, the person who owns the house, we rent from this person. He connects us with someone he knows, and he's also, by the way, just like, this is insane. We're not spending $5,000 on this. This is insane. So this person comes out, friend of a friend, basically, local electrician. This guy I checked has a Google business profile, 2 reviews, basically nothing else. Master electrician, though, 30, 40 years in the business. He comes in, walks in the door. Dude's dirty, muddy. I mean, it's kind of what you'd want from someone like this. And he's like, yeah, sorry about the mess. I've been working outside. I was like, no big deal. Come on in. Comes down, looks at the dishwasher, and he's like, oh, yeah, I see what's going on here. Pulls out the wire, clips it off, and literally in about 15 minutes, he's like, all right, should be all good. And I'm like, okay, is that it? Like, I'm like, what else? And he's like, yep, that's it. And I was like, and my wife is like totally just like amazed by this. She's like, I don't understand. The other electrician was here for like 2 hours and didn't fix it. And they were wanting to charge us $5,000. Like what? Like what in the world? And he was like, well, who did you call? And we say the company's name. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, well, there's a couple things you need to know about that company. First of all, I can tell you 10 more stories about them saying, and actually what he said was, he goes, did he tell you your house could have caught on fire? And I go, yep. And he goes, yep, they like to say that. And he said, the techs, they make commission on what they sell. So they're incentivized to charge way more than maybe what you need. And he had some other stories too about this company. And I was kind of just like, wow, this is amazing. I would have no idea. And bottom line, he gets everything said and done. Dishwasher works like instantly. It's perfect. And I'm like, hey, so what's it going to cost today? He's like, $180, just standard service call. And I'm thinking, this guy came in, didn't try to sell me a bunch of other things, fixed the problem in about 20 minutes, and it cost me $180, a fraction of what this other company was trying to charge me. Now, understand something for a minute. I've been on this kick lately about the secret sauce for growing your business. And a lot of us are really inclined to think about it's like snazzy marketing. What's the latest trends? Studying, do I need to go to video? Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? A lot of us are thinking about, do I need to freshen up my website? Do I need to, what's the next thing that I need to do that's going to help pivot my business and help me get ahead? And what I will tell you is there is no replacement for simply doing good work. There is no replacement for just doing what you said you will do. Now, we're going to unpack this a bit today because I want to make sure we're on the same page here. Ultimately, what we're talking about is doing business with integrity. Doing business honestly, fairly, and essentially doing well with your customer's dollar that they've entrusted with you. And if you've listened to the podcast long term, I've had plenty of stories about places that I spent my money that I regret spending money there. And, at the end of the day, there are so many people vying to become your customer, vying to make you their customer, that for some people, it very much is the ends justify the means. Sorry, I just looked out the window. My daughter's walking down the street. Oh, there's my wife. I looked at the window. I was like, feels like someone should be with her. She's good. We're good. Getting back to what I was talking about, though. Let's break this down a bit, okay? Brand is so often considered to be this thing that is, what's your logo? What are your brand colors? How do you talk about yourself? What are your values? And by the way, none of these things are bad, by the way. There's nothing wrong with any of these things. There's a Instagram account that I like to follow, Thorough Design, who she's always posting some of her latest brand work. And I mean, you can see the value there. It's pretty cool stuff, So this isn't a conversation about that not being important in your business. However, that is not the substance of your business. And I want to call back when I was working at this leadership consulting company, almost 6 years ago. We're working at this leadership consulting company. We had gone through a financial crisis, essentially, that had forced us to downsize our business from around 40 people down to about 5 full-time staff, with five other people who were also full-time, but they were more kind of like interns, like paid interns. So about 10 people total. So we reduced our staff by 75%, and we were essentially relaunching the business. We were kind of reimagining what our business would be. And I'm very happy with where that business transitioned to. It was a great launching point for my business, even as I started to think about, how do great businesses operate? Point being, this guy by the name of Jeff Essery, incredible, brilliant marketing guy, brilliant business guy. So we're in a meeting and we're doing it's called the business canvas, very basic. By the way, if you're listening to the podcast and you're thinking about starting a business, Google the business canvas. Very easy starting tool just to get you thinking about what it is you're going to sell. So we're doing something like this. And part of the deal of our business was we did a lot of in-person team events. We did a lot of in-person, let's talk management, let's talk leadership, let's talk about getting your team where you want it to be and the organization as a whole where you want it to go. So we're having this conversation, and there's a part on the business canvas that's basically something like and I'm butchering it, by the way, because I just haven't looked at it in forever, but it's basically like what differentiates you, or like what's your competitive advantage, like what makes you special effectively. By the way, I've long talked about this topic on previous episodes. If your answer is customer service, you're in trouble. Just by the way, if your answer is customer service, you are deeply in trouble. Anywho, so we're having this conversation on like what differentiates us, what makes us special. And what keeps coming back is how when we do these in-person events, we create a really safe space. The coffee's really good. We bring in a great lunch. The whole experience is just really enjoyable. And I'm there too, nodding along. I'm like, yeah, these are all really important things. Well, Jeff looks really concerned as we're having, and I'm kind of thinking like, do you not like our coffee? Like, what's going on here? And Jeff speaks up and he says, guys, we're not a hospitality company. So if our competitive advantage is our hospitality, we are in trouble now. We're a leadership consulting company talking about team events, and all the things we're saying about what makes our product or service great and valuable, it's the coffee. It's the thing that has nothing to do with the actual thing that we serve people with. Like that should be a massive uh-oh for us. And I'll never forget that meeting. I mean, it honestly still gives me chills today because I mean, this was such a brilliant insight that it went over my head, the issue, until he said it. And then I was like, oh yeah, right. Like we should be talking about, the retention of talent in these companies and what these companies go on to achieve, and like all of these different things that are tied to great leadership that we weren't talking about. Now, we were a great company. We did great work, but despite that, we were honing in on details that ultimately did not matter. Our businesses today are the same way. You have a product or service, and what makes someone happy with you as your buyer, and what makes someone willing to buy from you again and again and again, it's not the fact that you bought them a cup of coffee when you first met them. It's the fact that you did what you said you would do, and it was such a valuable experience that when they look at the sea of competitors, you are the obvious answer. You're the obvious result because you do what you say you will do. There's a few things that I like to do with my customers that I just like. It's things I like doing. Every new customer gets a welcome video and a welcome email. The email's not really that special. Everyone gets an email, but every customer gets a welcome video. It's a short 60-second video that says, hey, thanks for doing business with me. I really appreciate it. Because a lot of my customers, like we connect online. I'll have a customer who calls me that they're not even from my state or they're not even from my city. And we do the deal. I mean, the deal happens over the phone. They sign the contract online, and then we meet via Zoom or what have you. So I do the video because not all of my customers have the chance to meet me face to face. I have a customer, my farthest away customer is in Australia, of all places. Amazing customer, amazing people. So I want those people to get that from me, right? So everybody gets the welcome video. What I also like to do is mail out a welcome package. And this is, when I get some of these more detailed customers, detail's the wrong word. There's a difference between someone buying an ad on the podcast and someone who we're doing some pretty intentional work together. So I'm not able to do it with everybody, but definitely the more regular customers, I will send out this welcome package. And what's in it? Honestly, it's a couple of things that I really like. It's Onyx coffee. I love Onyx coffee. So I'll put in a pack of Onyx coffee. I'll put in usually a book I really like and a book that I think is relevant to them. So I have, one of the most recent ones I sent out was, oh man, I can't even think of the book title now. I can't think of the book title. Extreme Ownership is what it's called. Because I was talking to a guy who we were talking about this concept of my business is struggling. Is it because of the economy? Is it because of blah, 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 blah? Is it because of inflation? Hey, these things all may be true, but you have to own every decision of your business. So I sent a copy of that. I sent the Onyx coffee. I sent a branded mug. I went to a print shop and got their logo, not my logo. By the way, that's a whole nother topic. Stop sending your crap to your customers. They don't care about it. But I put their logo on the coffee mug. And then I put in, maybe like a note too. I can't remember. And I mailed that off. Okay. I'm going somewhere with this. That is not the meat of my business. I'm not mailing that off and then patting myself on the back thinking, wow, good advice does great business. These things are all extra. These are all things that add value to the customer experience, but they are not the sole value of the customer experience. I still have to deliver on the work we've agreed to. I still have to make sure that my product or service, that it does what I said it will do. And I still have to make sure that my customer is ultimately happy that they spent money on me and not with one of my competitors. Like, these things are icing on the cake. They're things that are designed to help add just a layer of intentionality with my customer. I think sometimes people, they do one of two things. They do extra stuff like that, like having good coffee in our team meetings at my previous company. They do things like that. And then they think, yeah, we do great business when the product sucks. Or worse, they don't do either, and these are very short-lived businesses where, they have people, they sign the contract, they pay the invoice, what have you, and the experience is crap and the product's crap. And those companies don't make it long-term. Now, understand too, just as a random aside, this is another great insight, by the way, about how you can do business in a way that treats people with a level of specialness where they feel like you're their only customer. So mentioning the customer that I just sent out the coffee for, well, it took a while to get their branded mug back. The coffee I had already had ground up because I didn't know if they had a coffee grinder. So I had it ground up. Coffee is fresh for a couple of weeks once it's ground. And it had been about a week and a half. And I thought, well, by the time it reaches them, it's going to be at the end of its lifetime. So I even went out and bought a new pack of coffee because I didn't want him getting. Now, is this guy gonna really know that it's day old fresh coffee versus 2 weeks? Probably not. The chances are rare that it's a coffee aficionado, right? But it doing that, sending the 2-week-old coffee is now in friction with the whole reason you're doing it anyway. I'll also add that for people in the past who I'll send stuff on that I know they don't drink coffee, I don't send them coffee. I don't send them things that I know they wouldn't like. It's just very simple things. And if you're listening and you're thinking like, wow, this sounds like a lot of work, it really isn't. You just have to listen. You just have to listen. And I'm probably making myself sound like I'm really great at this kind of stuff. I'm not. I just try to do a little bit of intentionality to make a difference in my customers' experience with me. Now, again, icing on the cake. These things are not, they're not themselves the value of what you deliver to the customer. And building on that too, when we talk about doing what you say you will do, it's a big reason why I think it's great to be gathering feedback from your customers constantly, feedback about the actual product or service. What did you think about it? What was the experience like? Would you buy this again? Did it do what I said it would do? And really leaning into that feedback. A lot of times we don't do that as business owners because we're scared it might bruise our ego and hurt our feelings and what have you. And really, we need those insights to improve our product and do better work long term. Does it make sense? We take this feedback so that we can know, does my product, is it really as good as I think it is? And there really is a disconnect there, often with the business founder and with their customers, where, you think the product's awesome, you think the product's amazing, and then the customer has the experience with it and they say, this really wasn't what I thought it was. I think the perfect example of this is, what's it called? The show with Gordon Ramsay, Kitchen Nightmares, where he goes into the restaurant and asks the owner, what do you think about the food? And the owner's like, oh, it's so great. The food's amazing. And then Gordon Ramsay tastes the food and he's like, this is terrible. This is trash. That disconnect is very common for many of us as business owners, which is why we have to be gathering feedback constantly and asking questions. Was this good? And honestly too, I think this is also how you find your right price point, which is probably a whole different conversation. But for me, I'm at the point now where I have what I feel like is a pretty steady viewpoint on price, so that when someone says, hey, can you do this? Someone called me a couple weeks ago, and from an SEO perspective, they were needing a couple of articles for this other customer. They said, hey, yeah, here's what we're needing. We're needing a couple of articles. Now, I didn't know anything about their budget. I actually didn't even really know anything about the company. I just said, yeah, this typically runs about $350 an article. And this is all the things that it includes. And the person said, okay, great. Send over the invoice. It was paid right there. Now, that's not every customer. Sometimes somebody calls and the kind of, I've had people call me in the past where they're like, hey, I need some business help. And I'm like, okay, great. And they're like, I got $50, and I'm like, okay, $50 of my time is me saying, what's your product? What's your service? Here's what I would do. Good luck, basically. Now, I don't actually charge $50. I usually just say, hey, I hope this helps. Good luck. Take the $50 and, spend it on your next mortgage payment or whatever, because this is going to take a while to kick into gear. But point being, I think there's some real health around having your price up front, because that also is a whole separate conversation on transparency in sales. And it does better for your customer when you have clarity on the value, rather than like, oh, what's your budget? Oh, well, that's about my price. And then it's, slimy and weird. And, anyway. So point being, do you offer something valuable? Is your service good? If it is, great. Your business will grow. It will. Your business will grow. I've had to figure out a lot of things with good advice. I've had to figure out a lot of things. The one thing that I have really thought long about, the one thing I've thought often about, are my customers happy with what they bought from me? I mean, I wrestle with it. Honestly, I do. In the sense of, I don't have any 1-star reviews, but integrity is so important to me, that somebody gets what I offered them, what service I offered to help them with. So back to you then. If you do good work, if you do your business honestly and fairly, it will grow. If your business is not growing, it's time to look at the value of what you're delivering, the value that you're giving, and having an honest gut check. Do I need to improve this value? Do I need to do better work? And do I need to rehash some things that I've been doing previously? We all got to look in the mirror, right? Something that I'm doing every day. And I'd invite you to join me on this journey too, so we can keep doing business the right way. Don't run up someone's price. Don't run up the price and offer all these bells and whistles to make the big sale. Do the right thing. If it's a $500 job, say it's $500. It doesn't mean that you have to, I'm going to do it all for $100. But there's a whole nother conversation too. I think that's the trend of this podcast episode, by the way, is that's another conversation. I'm getting all these ideas as we're talking, but you can do good business and be paid fairly. And if it's a $500 offer, if it's a $5,000 offer, I've had some of those. I've sold some $5,000 gigs and higher that I felt really good about and felt like, yeah, that's about what the value is. So it doesn't mean you're the cheapest, but if you are charging $5,000, man, you better make sure it's a $5,000 value. And you better make sure it's actually there and not just a number that you ran up. Hey, thanks for tuning in to today's episode. I so appreciate you listening to the podcast. Don't forget, you can always support the podcast at our Patreon for as little as the price of a cup of coffee. It's at patreon.com/goodadvice. And if you want to promote your business on the podcast, you can always email blake@goodadvicecoaching.com. I appreciate the long-term supporters of the podcast, and I appreciate you listening. Let's continue to do good work and do business better. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you later. See ya.